More than 93% of drivers damage their cars without even realizing you're likely doing at least one of these things. Today, we're exposing 15 things you do currently destroying your car every day. Mistake number 14, ignoring the traction control button. Most drivers have no idea what that button with the little skidding car icon actually does, or they turn it off once and forget to turn it back on. That's traction control, and driving around with it disabled is quietly rewriting how your car behaves in an emergency. It's one of the few systems in your car you genuinely never notice, right up until the one moment you desperately need it. Traction control uses the same sensors and modulates the same brakes as your stability system. Leave it off, and you're not just risking wheel spin. You're disabling part of your car's ability to catch a skid before you even feel it starting. Most people assume it just controls acceleration, but it's actually working behind the scenes on every single turn. Here's what they don't tell you. Some cars need the ignition cycle to reset it, so a driver can go months thinking traction control is on when it's actually been off. Since the last rainy day, they switched it off on purpose. Here's the kicker. Insurance data consistently shows vehicles are far more likely to lose control in wet or icy conditions without it active. It's not a performance toy. It's a safety net you're throwing away for nothing. And unlike a worn tire or a bad brake pad, you can't see this risk coming. Leave it on unless you genuinely need it off, like getting unstuck from mud or snow. Get back in the habit of checking that little dashboard icon before you drive. And speaking of things people forget they're carrying around, this next one is putting extra strain on parts you'd never suspect. Mistake number 13, leaving heavy items in the trunk. That case of water, the toolbox, the golf clubs you haven't touched in a year. All of it is dead weight your car hauls around on every single trip, and it's costing you more than you think. Most drivers don't even remember what's back there anymore, because it's been sitting so long it just feels like part of the car. Extra weight means your suspension components, wheel bearings and brakes are working harder on every stop and every turn, all day, every day. It also drags down your fuel economy, sometimes by a full mile per gallon or more depending on how much you're carrying. Over a year of daily driving, that adds up to real money spent hauling stuff you never use. Here's what they don't tell you. Struts and shocks are engineered around an expected weight range. Load the trunk down permanently and you accelerate wear on bushings and mounts that were never designed to carry that load full time. Here's the kicker. A worn strut doesn't usually announce itself with a warning light. It just shows up one day as a $150 part and $300 in labor per corner, 4 times over if you let it go long enough. And a bouncy, unstable ride is often the only warning sign you get beforehand. Clean out the trunk, keep only what you actually need for that trip. Take 2 minutes this week and actually go check what's back there. But if you think extra weight is bad, wait until you see what riding the brakes does to an entire braking system at once. Mistake number 12, riding the brakes on long descents. You're heading down a long grade, foot resting on the brake pedal the whole way instead of tapping it. It feels controlled. It's actually cooking your braking system alive. Most drivers do this on instinct, without ever realizing there's a completely different technique built into the car for exactly this situation. Continuous light pressure keeps the pads in constant contact with the rotors, building heat that never has a chance to dissipate. Push the brakes too hard for too long, and the fluid itself can start to boil, which means your pedal goes soft right when you need it most. Here's what they don't tell you. Rotors that overheat repeatedly can warp permanently, and glazed pads lose a huge percentage of their stopping power even after they cool back down. That glazing doesn't reverse itself. Once it happens, the pads are compromised for good. Here's the kicker. I've seen drivers come off a mountain pass with a spongy pedal and warped rotors, and not one of them realized it happened on the way down instead of all at once. They only found out when the brakes felt wrong on a completely flat road afterward. On a long descent, drop into a lower gear and let the engine slow you down, tapping the brakes only when needed, and overheated brakes are bad enough. But this next mistake bakes damage into your car for years without you ever touching a pedal. Mistake number 11, parking in direct sun for years. Parking in the sun feels harmless. It's just light, right? Wrong. UV exposure and heat cycling are 2 of the most underrated killers of a car's interior and rubber components. It's slow enough that most drivers never connect the damage to the cause, since it happens over years, not days. Dashboard plastics crack, seats fade and dry out, and every rubber seal around your doors, windows, and engine bay slowly loses its flexibility. That stiff, brittle rubber is exactly what lets water and dust start sneaking in. Here's what they don't tell you. Heat doesn't just age plastic and rubber. It also accelerates the breakdown of fluids sitting in reservoirs under the hood, especially anything stored near the top of the engine bay. Interior cabin temperatures can spike far higher than the outside air, quietly stressing electronics too. Here's the kicker. A cracked windshield seal or a dried out door gasket rarely gets noticed until you've already got a leak or a wind noise. And by then, you're paying a body shop, not a parts counter. What started as a $10 seal turns into a much bigger interior repair. Use a sunshade, park in shade, or a garage when you can, and consider a UV protectant on your interior trim. It's one of the cheapest habits that pays off over the full life of the car. But direct sun damages things slowly. This next mistake does damage every single time you sit still. Mistake number 10, excessive idling. Letting the car run for 20-30 minutes just sitting in a parking lot or driveway feels like it's not doing anything. It's actually one of the least efficient things you can do to an engine. It's a habit left over from older carbureted cars that genuinely needed a long warm-up, but modern engines don't work that way. Modern engines are not designed to run efficiently at idle for long stretches. Fuel doesn't fully combust at idle temperatures, which means unburned fuel can wash down cylinder walls and dilute your oil over time. Here's what they don't tell you. Idling also builds carbon deposits on intake valves and injectors faster than normal driving does, because the engine never reaches the temperatures needed to burn that buildup off. Direct injection engines are especially prone to this kind of carbon buildup. Here's the kicker. That carbon buildup eventually shows up as rough idling, hesitation, and a check engine light, and a proper walnut blast cleaning to fix it can run several $100s. It's a repair bill entirely caused by a habit that felt harmless the whole time. If you need to warm up the car, 30 seconds to a minute is plenty. After that, just drive gently. Your engine actually warms up faster under a light load than sitting still. If this is news to you, hit that like button, because the next mistake is one almost every driver does without thinking twice. Mistake number 9, never shifting to neutral at stops. Most drivers never touch that gear selector once they're moving. They just leave it in drive from the driveway to the destination, brakes doing all the work at every single stop. It's one of those habits nobody questions because it feels like the normal way to drive. Even at a full stop, leaving the transmission in drive keeps the torque converter engaged, which means fluid is constantly being churned and heat is constantly being generated, even though the car isn't moving an inch. Shifting to neutral at a longer stop takes that converter out of the equation entirely and lets the fluid actually settle instead of getting cooked. Here's what they don't tell you. On a hot day stuck in traffic, that idle heat load adds up fast, especially if your cooling system is already older or slightly neglected. A long light in stop-and-go summer traffic can quietly push transmission temps higher than an entire highway trip, all because the car never left drive. Here's the kicker. Transmission fluid breaks down chemically once it crosses a certain temperature threshold, and once that happens, no flush brings it back. You're looking at a rebuild, not a fix. And that threshold gets crossed faster than most drivers would ever guess. At a long light or a drive-through line, shift into neutral and use the parking brake or foot brake to hold the car instead. Speaking of things people let slide, this next mistake is sitting under your hood right now, quietly warning you. Mistake number 8, ignoring low coolant. That coolant light comes on, and half of drivers just top it off once and forget about it, assuming it's a one-time thing. It's rarely a one-time thing. Coolant doesn't just disappear on its own. If the level keeps dropping, something in the system is letting it escape. Coolant keeps your engine at a stable operating temperature and protects internal components from corrosion. Run it low consistently, and you're inviting localized hotspots that can warp a cylinder head before you ever see a temperature gauge move. Here's what they don't tell you. A slow coolant leak often shows no puddle at all if it's evaporating off a hot engine component, which means the level keeps dropping with zero visible evidence. Some leaks only show up as a faint sweet smell, which most drivers never think to investigate. Here's the kicker. A warped head or blown head gasket from chronic overheating isn't a $50 fix. You're looking at $1,500 to $3,000, sometimes more depending on the engine. And that's before factoring in the tow bill if it fails on the road. Check your coolant level monthly and get any drop investigated immediately. But an engine running hot is one thing. An engine running dirty fuel is a whole different disaster. Mistake number 7. Not replacing the fuel filter. Most drivers have never even thought about their fuel filter, let alone replaced it. It just sits there quietly trapping dirt and debris, until one day it's so clogged it can barely let fuel through at all. It's one of the most forgotten parts on the entire car, mostly because it's out of sight and out of mind. A clogged filter restricts fuel flow to the engine, which forces your fuel pump to work harder to push fuel through a shrinking opening. That extra strain is exactly what burns pumps out early. Here's what they don't tell you. Symptoms of a clogged filter, hesitation, stalling, trouble starting, look almost identical to a dozen other issues, which means it often gets misdiagnosed until the pump itself fails. Some shops will replace spark plugs or sensors first, chasing the wrong problem entirely. Here's the kicker. A fuel filter replacement might run you $100. A fuel pump replacement caused by ignoring that filter can run you $400 to $800 on top of it. That's an avoidable bill, nearly 10 times the size of the original fix. Check your manual for the recommended interval and stick to it. But dirty fuel is nothing compared to what a slammed door does to parts you'd never expect. Mistake number 6, slamming the car door shut. Slamming the door feels satisfying, especially in a hurry. But every hard slam sends a shockwave through the door hinges, latch mechanism, and the wiring harness running through the door jamb. It's such a small motion that almost nobody thinks of it as something that could damage the car at all. Over years of slamming, hinges loosen, latches wear unevenly, and the wiring that runs to your power windows, mirrors, and speakers can develop hairline breaks from the repeated jolt. Here's what they don't tell you. Intermittent electrical issues, a window that sometimes doesn't work, a speaker that crackles, often trace back to fatigued wiring in the door jamb that nobody suspects because it looks fine from the outside. The wire can be broken internally while the insulation looks perfectly intact. Here's the kicker. Tracing an intermittent short in a door harness is one of the most time-consuming diagnostics a shop can run, which means you're paying labor hours just to find the problem before you even fix it. Some shops charge more to diagnose it than to actually repair it once found. Close the door with a firm, controlled push instead of a slam. But a slammed door is obvious. This next mistake is one you might not even be able to see. Mistake number 5. Using a foggy headlight. Headlights that have gone cloudy and yellow over the years don't just look bad. They're putting out a fraction of the light output they had when new, sometimes as little as 20%. Most drivers get so used to the gradual dimming that they don't even notice it happening. Oxidized headlight lenses scatter light instead of focusing it, which drastically cuts your visibility at night and how well other drivers can see you coming. Here's what they don't tell you. Foggy headlights aren't just a cosmetic issue. In several states, they can be enough to fail an inspection or draw a citation because they no longer meet minimum light output standards. Some insurance claims after nighttime accidents have even cited reduced visibility as a contributing factor. Here's the kicker. Waiting too long lets UV damage penetrate past the surface, and at that point, no polish or restoration kit brings the lens back. You're buying a replacement headlight assembly instead, which can run several $100s each. On some newer cars with LED assemblies, that cost climbs even higher. A headlight restoration kit costs about $20 and takes 20 minutes. But dim headlights are a visibility problem. This next mistake is a starting problem waiting to happen. Mistake number 4, having a corroded battery. That white, chalky buildup on your battery terminals looks harmless. It's actually resistance building up right where your entire electrical system needs a clean connection the most. Most drivers never even pop the hood to look, so it builds for years completely unnoticed. Corrosion forms when battery gases react with moisture and road grime, and it slowly increases resistance at the terminal connection. That resistance makes your alternator work harder just to keep the battery charged. Here's what they don't tell you. A corroded connection can cause intermittent electrical gremlins, flickering dash lights, random accessory glitches, long before the battery ever fully fails or leaves you stranded. Those glitches often get blamed on the radio or the computer instead of the real culprit. Here's the kicker. Most drivers only discover the corrosion the morning their car won't start, usually somewhere far less convenient than their own driveway. It's almost never in the garage. It's always in a parking lot in the rain. Clean the terminals with a wire brush and a baking soda solution every few months, and check them whenever you pop the hood. But a bad connection is annoying. Warm air blasting from your AC vents is a sign something bigger just failed. Mistake number 3, driving when AC is blowing warm air. You crank the AC on a hot day and get lukewarm air instead of cold. Most people just crank the fan higher and keep driving, assuming it'll sort itself out. It won't. Warm air from AC vents almost always means refrigerant has leaked out of a system that's supposed to be sealed. Continuing to run a low refrigerant AC system can cause the compressor to run without adequate lubrication, since refrigerant carries the oil that keeps it alive. That compressor is one of the most expensive single components in the entire AC system. Here's what they don't tell you. Running the AC repeatedly with low refrigerant is one of the fastest ways to kill a compressor because it's essentially running dry every time you switch it on. Every time you flip that AC switch with low refrigerant, you're gambling with a $1,000 part. Here's the kicker. A refrigerant recharge and leak fix might cost $150 to $300. Wait until the compressor seizes and you're looking at $1,000 or more for a full replacement. Get any drop in cooling performance checked right away. Don't just keep running the system hoping it improves. But a struggling AC system is one thing. Skipping a 5-minute maintenance step is an entirely avoidable mistake. Mistake number 2, not using fuel injector cleaner. Fuel injectors spray incredibly fine mists of fuel, and over time, carbon deposits build up on the injector tips, distorting that spray pattern. Most drivers never do anything about it until performance noticeably drops. A distorted spray pattern means fuel isn't burning as efficiently, which shows up as rough idling, hesitation on acceleration, and worse fuel economy that creeps up on you gradually. Because it happens slowly, most drivers just assume that's simply how the car has always driven. Here's what they don't tell you. By the time you notice a real difference in how the car drives, the deposits have usually been building for tens of thousands of miles, which means a bottle of cleaner alone may not fully undo it. At that point, it often takes several treatments just to see real improvement. Here's the kicker. Professional injector cleaning services can run $100 to $200, while a quality bottle of injector cleaner used every few oil changes costs about $10 and prevents the buildup in the first place. Add a good injector cleaner every 3,000 to 5,000 miles as cheap insurance. And last but not least, this final mistake affects a system most drivers have never once checked in their entire time owning the car. Mistake number 1, forgetting to check power steering fluid. Power steering fluid is one of the most overlooked fluids under the hood, right up until the steering wheel suddenly gets heavy and hard to turn, usually at the worst possible moment. Most drivers can't even tell you where the reservoir is located under the hood. Low or degraded power steering fluid means the pump has to work harder to generate the same pressure, and running it low for extended periods can cause that pump to overheat and fail internally. Here's what they don't tell you. A whining noise when turning the wheel, especially at low speeds, is often the very first warning sign, and it shows up long before the steering ever feels difficult. Most drivers dismiss that whine as just an old car making noise. Here's the kicker. A power steering fluid top-off costs next to nothing. A failed power steering pump replacement can run $300 to $600 depending on the vehicle. That's a completely preventable repair bill for skipping a fluid check that takes seconds. Check the reservoir every time you check your oil, and top it off the moment it looks low. It's one of the fastest checks you can do and one of the most overlooked. If you found this helpful, wait till you see what's next. Our next video reveals the maintenance secrets that will save you thousands and keep your car running strong for years. Hit subscribe and stay tuned because your car deserves better, and so does your wallet.